16 and you own everything and you know every darn thing, then how far can you grow?
Right.
At some point, you got to go down. There's a process called, I heard it from Bobby Hemmett, it's called transformation through putrefaction. That means going down to the lowest point that you can get to in order to transform and go back up high. There's another form of vibration that when you take a handball, you know when you take a ball and if you just drop it on the ground, it kind of goes up and bounces like that until it just goes on down. If you want to get back up high, what do you have to do? You have to slam that ball down as hard as you can. All right? Now, if we haven't been slammed down as hard as you can get, I don't know who else has.
Yes.
All right? If we haven't been placed under pressure, I don't know who else has. If we haven't been baptized by fire, I don't know who else has.
Come on, Chase.
And so the reason for all of this is for you to transform and go higher. That on the rebound, when you go back up, maybe you don't forget slavery.
Right.
Maybe you don't forget how you was treated. Maybe you don't forget all the bad things that happened to you so that you can turn around and do it to somebody else when you get on top. Because that's usually what happens right now in our society. History bears it out that the people that take over due to revolution, they wind up becoming the same oppressors that they fought against.
Right.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to break that cycle, you got to do something extraordinary. All right? That extraordinary thing has been done to us.
That's right.
All right? So please let us not forget that. And let's go on up higher.
Yeah.
You mind if I say a quick quote?
Go ahead, brother.
It's a quote. Somebody in this room might know what I'm talking about. It says, "Without a foe, a soldier will never know his strength. Thought must be developed by the exercise of strength." And if I'm paraphrasing it right, I think it's in the Chinese language. They don't have a word that equates to struggle. They just call it opportunity. There's no such thing as a hardship. It's just an opportunity to gain strength.
That's true. There's, you know what? That's so profound because there's something else about being African and of African descent. And let's say we all recognize that we was the original man on this earth,
right.
And before us there was no other. Well, so before the white man, who was the enemy?
We were.
Huh?
The inner me.
Huh? So, opposition does breed greatness. All right, it brings the best out of you. You don't know what you were. Any sports player would tell you they don't want to just go play ball with anybody. They want to go play against the best.
That's right.
Because that brings the best out of them. That's the name of the game. And we're playing this game because we just happen to be on this planet. This planet has a certain set of rules to play by. You need to learn those rules in order to start excelling at your life. All right? Some of those rules, they're called universal laws. You need to pick up a book called The Kabbalion.
Come on.
K-Y-B-A-L-I-O-N. The Kabbalion. Those are a set of 7 universal laws that everything on this planet plays by. All right? First thing you need to do, you want to play well, you need to read the rule book. All right? That's one of the ultimate rule books. The Kabbalion. All right? There's some other stuff we're going to get into. I got a whole series of lectures. I had a little pamphlet. Oh, here we go. I got a whole series of lectures coming up. I'm going to be doing this every Monday here at 90s Cafe. They've been great enough to host me here. I think I have a few more of these. But the next one, I may or may not go into more detail about the golden age of the Moors.
Please do.
The liberal arts. It's after that one. Etymology, and I'm talking about words and definitions. You need to know what these words mean. Because of the language that we speak. Have you ever watched any of those old Western movies? And the Indian guy says, white man speak with forked tongue.
Yeah.
Alright? What he means is, our words, the language that we speak, this English language, is known as an equivocal language.
Right.
Equivocal means that it's purposefully used to be deceptive, to have more than one meaning. That's why we have 2 and 3 words for the same thing.
Exactly.
2 words spelled similarly but are completely different meanings. You need to know what these words mean and how to find out their real definitions, because when they're talking to you and you're signing these credit cards, these checks, these banks, this rent, this, you know, for your home, when you signing your kids away, all this stuff, you need to know what these words mean, and you need to know how to look them up. So we really going to get into that etymology. And I definitely got to say, if you want to do some research on your own before I get to that, look up Sister Yafa Bey. Y-A-F-F-B-E-Y. She has a website. I think it's yafabey.com. I got most of this information from her. She's a very powerful sister, and she teaches about words and definitions. She's very thorough and very detailed. You might even find some videos on YouTube with her on there. Look into that. I'm also going to talk about astrology. I'm not going to get into casting nobody's chart or prognosticating or nothing. What I am going to do is show you the science behind why astrology works.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to go into some of the symbols and some, you know, symbology of it. After that, we're going to go into numerology. I showed you some of that today.
Right.
The science behind numbers. They're more than for just addition and subtraction. All right, I showed you an entire concept of man, woman, and child and God using numbers. All right, it gets deep. The numbers get real deep. Symbology. Symbols are all around us.
Absolutely.
All right? Just like if you go over to Egypt today, if you don't know how to read the symbols, you be looking at those hieroglyphics like, what in the world is going on? We have that many symbols. That's what do you think a logo is?
Come on, man.
It's a symbol, and it means something.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go into what those symbols mean. The Secret, I'm sure everybody's at this point have heard of that book or the video about The Secret. All right, I'm going to go into why The Secret works, and then I'm going to share with you some other secrets that'll really make it work. All right, because The Secret is just one. That law of attraction, that's just one law. There's 7 more. All right. Knowledge of self. All right. The keys to unlocking your secret inner greatness. All right. So, if you're spiritually inclined, come on out to that one. All right. If you're very sensitive about your religion, you might not want to come. I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings.
Decoding the
And
Bible.
I don't try to talk about nobody's religion either. I'm not dogmatic. To me, all roads eventually lead to the same place if you're really trying to go higher. All right, so I don't want to want you to get me wrong. I'm not going to be disrespectful, but I may say some things that you might not have heard before or agreed with based on your previous teaching. So if you're sensitive about it, I'm just trying to warn you. All right. The next one is decoding the Bible, taking a look at this ancient set of books from a new perspective. It's the same thing. I'm not going to dog nothing about the Bible because it's a lot of good stuff in there. That's a compilation of ancient books of wisdom. All right? So it's a lot of good stuff in there. I'm going to show you kind of how to sift through it, though, for some of the stuff that they injected into it over time to oppress you and to oppress me. All right? We're going to talk a little bit about the sons of Ham and the Hamitic curse and all this carrying on that they say we got what we had coming and all this. We was born slaves and all this. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to go a little bit deeper in Out of Egypt is the next one, talking about the Bible's love and hate relationship with Egypt. 1 minute, Egypt is the best thing since sliced bread. People are going there to get saved and saved from famine and all that. The next minute, it's let my people go. You know, we're going to bring all these plagues and all this stuff on you. We're going to talk about why that ebb and flow happens in the Bible with Egypt. All right. The Science of Melanin. I am going to talk about melanin.
Okay.
She asked me about that. Yeah. So we're going to go a little bit about melanin. 12 Powers of the Black Man will be next. And I have to say that I got a lot of that information from Brother C. Freeman L. Look him up online. C. Freeman L. He has a lot of good information. You'll find some YouTube videos on him that are outstanding. He's an excellent teacher. And he said, when I started learning black history, he helped me to go down a different path, to go higher spiritually. All right, so I highly recommend him. All right. And then finally, we're going to talk about chakras. I got lots of other topics we can go into over time and whatever y'all bring up. My job is not, I am not out there on the ground doing this scholarship. I want you to know that. I'm a teacher.
Okay.
So I take this information, I find it, and I put it in a way that I can convey it to people so that they can understand it.
Exactly.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
For me.
Excellent job.
All right, and I take my insights and things that I get based on the knowledge that I have, because sometimes I get stuff that's not in the books. I do. And I get different perspectives. That's why I was able to show you the movies from a different perspective.
Yeah.
All right, and the media and things like that, because that's just something I've been blessed with. That's my part of my gift. Okay, and so I'm trying to share that with you all.
Thank you.
All right, just a different perspective. Like I said, none of this. A lot of y'all knew a lot of this information. Well, hopefully, what I promised you about showing you a different perspective, I did.
You did. You did your job well. Yeah.
All right. Which one? Oh, the Kabbalion. The name of that book is called The Kabbalion.
And those books that you see up
K-Y-B-A-L-I-O-N.
there, I have two in stock already.
K-Y-B-A-L-I-O-N.
But they never told you.
And you can get that for like $10 at Borders. Yeah.
She said she got 2 of those books here already.
Oh, she said she got 2 of them? Oh, she got a couple of them here?
They came on we changed it already. But Superman, the Man Stolen Legacy, any of those books you can get at 90s.
Okay, 90s is your resource. I don't know if you want me mentioning the Black Hole, but they got some decent books too. But it's not a lot of places where you can find a lot of these books. I'm telling you, Borders doesn't have a lot of them.
Right.
You either gonna be able to get them here. I like coming to get them here because for one, it's local. For two, I don't like to wait to order online. When I want something, I come and try and find it as fast as possible. So please come here. And matter of fact, if you want to order books, you can. Nandi can order them for you too. So come on, if you need these books, come and get them from her. Because this stuff will set your mind on fire.
That's right.
All right. Now, it was no charge for the lecture, but if you felt like I helped you out or hooked you up,
I give you all my money in my wallet.
I asked you for a little donation. I'm not gonna do you like the preacher. Ain't nobody going to hell. But it helps because all the flyers and all this stuff. I pay for this stuff.
Yeah.
And I love I do it because I love it and I love y'all.
Yeah.
I want you to give. I'm not trying to save everybody, but I'm trying to help as many people as I can.
Yeah.
That's my thing. So.
You want to put those book names up for the next session?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have a book list. I'll bring a book list.
Thank you. That will happen.
Well, that's it for me. So, do I got any more questions?
All right.
All right, that's Egyptian mythology. Look at this, the surroundings. That's a swamp. That's Egyptian mythology. That's best. That's best.
Oh, wow.
That's a statue thousands of years old. That's best. Keep going. This is Osiris. This is Horus, Osiris, and Isis.
That's it.
Man, woman, and child, or Father, Son, Holy Ghost. They make you a ghost now in church because they don't want you to remember that that's a woman.
Wow.
They say not in the Bible it says he. The Holy Ghost is he. He. It's she.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't get completion without the woman.
Right.
All right. You don't.
No,
Man, woman, and child. As a child, my mother told me about the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and I'm like, well, where's Jesus' mother? And she was like, well, no, you just don't understand the concept. As a child, I understood if there's a son and a father, it got to be a mama. But they tell you, no, don't believe your lying eyes. It's something different. No, even a child can tell you that a son has a mama.
But the Catholics worship
That's mama.
the Virgin Mary more than they do the Son.
They do. That's why. That's why the Virgin Mary has taken on Mary, Mother of God, and all that. All right. But in our church, we still take everything so literal, and we don't never get past the mythology part. They can still tell us fairy tales and we believe it.
Right.
At some point in your life, or at some point in spiritual life, traditionally, they say, okay, we told you the basic stuff, and you were supposed to get to a point where you was like, okay, well, something's not quite making sense. I don't really understand that story you told me. Can you explain it to me a little bit different? Because based on what else I've learned, that's not making sense. The priest or the pastor was supposed to say, okay.
You're ready.
I see you're ready for the deeper knowledge now.
Come on.
All right? So there's a term called exoteric and a term called esoteric.
Come on.
Exoteric is the teaching on the outside. It's what the masses get. That's what you get when you go to Reverend Biscuit's church. And I am stealing from C. Freeman L. That's one of my favorite scholars ever. But when you go to the Reverend's church, he gives you the exoteric. That's what everybody gets.
Right.
You got Sunday school, you got all of this, all right? But when you go to when you get ready, you're supposed to say, look, something is bugging me. This is not making sense. But now what they tell you is, well, your faith isn't strong enough. You just don't believe. There's something wrong with you. And you need to check your faith, brother, and you need to check your faith, sister, because what you believe is not, I'm telling you what God says is in the Word, and you should believe every single word of it.
General opinion is no.
They don't tell you no more that, well, it was something on the inside. Okay, I understand. I see you a little bit further than that. Let me take you on the inside and tell you what's really going on. Let me take you into the Holy of Holies and let you know what's inside of here. All right? They don't do that anymore. A lot of them don't do that anymore just because they don't know either.
Right.
All right, that's the real deal. They don't know either. But that's really what's going on. Esoteric is the inside, and it's a whole nother world. It's a whole other world from the outside learning that you get from any religious institution. Any religion that you go to has two sides to it.
Right.
Any one. One is exoteric, one is esoteric.
And were you, did you have anything else on Yoda that you want to speak on?
I think that was it.
Can I make 2 quick points?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Notice how Yoda's green, and if you look at certain Kemetic hieroglyphics, people are green. And then they said that the way they talk is the same way they used to talk to Kim. How you say, oh, hungry you are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just another correlation.
Oh, okay. That's what's up. This right here is called the Jed Pillar. All right? The Jed Pillar. G-J-E-D. That's what, when you raise the Jed Pillar, raising the pillar is raising the power inside of you. All right? That's why often the mummies or the statues are seen like this, and they're holding this pillar.
Right.
All right? That's raising the power inside of you. Go ahead to the next slide. That's what they use as a weapon. The lightsaber.
Right.
Remember, it's a lightsaber. When they light it up, this light shoots up and they can fight with it. That's their power. The Jedi use the Jed Pillar to fight with.
Come on,
That's what that is. Here's the Jed Pillar right here.
Yep.
He's holding it. He's got the snake on his head, the Superman S. All right. He's got the crook and the flail. All right. The crook is, I'm the good shepherd. All right. And I love my people. The flail is discipline. It's balance. All right. He's perfectly balanced with the Jed Pillar in the middle, and pretty much love and discipline on each side. And he's perfectly balanced. That's science. That's your science. To become a Jedi was the real deal. When Luke Skywalker became a Jedi, which color did he put on?
Black.
He started sporting black.
Teach.
Just like his dad.
Yeah.
Because now I got the power. Hancock is nothing but Horus.
Real.
And guess what? In the movie, go back and watch it. The black man had amnesia.
Right.
The whole point was somebody knocked him in his head. He forgot who he was. He thinking he a bum, an alcoholic. He was like, what kind of asshole am I that people don't even love me? Nobody was there for me to pick me up. He forgot who he was. He's a god. And like she mentioned, what was his kryptonite?
Caucasian.
A woman. That was his kryptonite. When she got around him, he lost his power. That's your story. I'm trying to tell you, history, they showing it on these movies. When the hero wears black, that's you.
Okay.
All right. When the judge at the courthouse wears black, that's you.
That's right.
When you turn into the sweetest kung fu artist, what color belt do they give you?
Black.
Black. Bruce Lee?
Black.
All right. Let's see what they got to say about Chinese people. I got a video on this. Y'all got to check this out. It's gonna trip you out. Check out this video.
My favorite.
Click right on the face.
There is something that could settle this debate of where the Chinese come from once and for all. I'm meeting Professor Jin Li, one of China's leading geneticists. Recently, he led a project that set out to prove that the Chinese evolved independently from everyone else, from Homo erectus, here in China.
Before the project started, I was hoping that I could identify or could be able to find evidence that support independent origin of Chinese in China, because I'm a Chinese and came from China, and through the education process, I always believed that there's something special about Chinese.
He singled out a male genetic marker which only appeared about 80,000 years ago in Africa. So any man who carries that marker must have recent African ancestors and can't be descended from the more ancient Asian Homo erectus. Jin took DNA from over 160 ethnic groups around East Asia. Over 12,000 samples. And so, what did you find?
We did not see even one single individual that could be considered as the descendant of the Homo erectus in China. Rather, everybody was a descendant of our ancestors from Africa.
The results couldn't have been any clearer. How did that make you feel as a Chinese person?
After I saw the evidences that we generate in my laboratory, I think we should all be happy with that, because after all, modern humans from different part of the world are not so different from each other, and we are very close relatives.
It's great, thank you.
That's what I'm
trying to tell you, your people took their knowledge and took their self all over this world. This is our stuff. That's why these boys were so hot and heavy about the Wu-Tang Clan and
they knew
being samurais and Chinese and kung fu.
They had to dissolve them out too.
That
Yeah, they were talking to
wherever they find it, because they understand this science. They've been holding it for so long. They've been studying it.
Right.
So they know where we show up, and they look for where we show up.
You see that guy got his finger on his lips going.
Oh yeah.
And he got the sign over there doing like this.
Well, all these guys know. They know what's up. All the Wu-Tang Clan, they know what's up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, we slow. We got to get this. Our people's all over the world. You had the Chinese geneticists just told you. That's us. That's the swastika you was talking about.
With woolly hair.
That's the star child with woolly hair. Look at that cornrow. Any Chinese person you know got hair like that? All right. No. There go another one. That's Buddha. There go Buddha again.
Look at his nose and his lips.
Come on,
Nose, lips, corn. They call that peppercorn here.
Yep.
Over here we call it naps.
Right.
Okay? Keep going. Hancock. Just Hancock. He's going to tell you what his problem is.
I couldn't tell him. I don't know who I am.
I don't know who I am.
Amnesia. You know, the blow to the head.
Yeah, well, that's what they figured.
You don't remember anything?
Only thing I had in my pocket was bubble gum, 2 movie tickets, Boris Karloff, Frankenstein, but no ID. Wanted to sign out. The nurse asked me for my John Hancock. So I actually thought that's who I was.
How come I didn't hear any of this and didn't read about it in the newspapers?
It was probably in the papers 80 years ago.
80 years ago?
Oh, I don't age. That, I wonder. What kind of bastard must I have been? And nobody was there to claim it. I mean, I'm not the most charming guy in the world, so I've been told, but nobody?
All right, that's us. He told you. I woke up, I had amnesia, I didn't know who I was. All right, and they said, "Well, who are you? Give me your John Hancock." He took somebody else's name. Now, don't all of us supposedly have our slave master's name?
Right. Took somebody else's name.
All right, so they tell you your story, you go pay for it, like, damn, that was a good movie, and don't even know what they really telling you. All right, so let's go back to the Transformers.
Can't bring him back, Sam. There's nothing left.
Look around you. We didn't just go through everything we went through for no reason at all to just have it end like this. There is a reason that we are here. The voices and the symbols in my head led us here for a purpose. Everyone's after me because of what I know. And what I know is that this is going to work.
How do you know it's gonna work?
Because I believe it.
We're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose. All right? And all of this stuff, this reason, if you know how diamonds are made, one of the most prolific gems in Africa, all right? They're made from coal, the blackest substance on earth. Coal is made from carbon, all right? In order to make diamonds, over time, it needs to be put under tremendous pressure and heat. All right, the most intense pressure, the most intense heat, and you get the brightest and biggest and most shiniest diamonds. All right, that's what this is for. That's what we had to go through this for. Not to mention just the whole simple fact, like I said, what goes around comes around, but to transform from a caterpillar to a butterfly. You want to go back up and be the divine being that you really are? You got to be under pressure.
You do?
All right? You got to be tested. Tested by fire. Fire purifies gold, right? Steel sharpens steel, all this stuff. Now you're starting to understand why some of these things, when they say it in the Bible, what it really means. We're talking about sometimes it does take hard times for you to transform. Sometimes it does take pressure and disrespect and disregard for you to transform and for you to wake up and move. All right, if you're so comfortable, if you're the king and you his mortal enemy, so that's the original good guy, bad guy, Batman and the Joker. All right, have you ever wondered why? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, can you go back? All right, have you ever wondered in comic books why Batman never kills the Joker? All that time they've been fighting, years and years and years, he never kills them. They're going, because it's based on mythology. All right, and the mythological understanding that you cannot have light without darkness. All right, that the sun don't rise for 12 hours unless it sets for 12 hours. So Batman and the Joker are Horus and Set. All right. Superman is Horus. All right. Let me break down Superman for you. Superman, he got on the blue tights. What color is the sky? Horus or Heru is the god of the sky or the sun. Both. All right. He's got that S on his chest. Remember I drew that Uraeus for you earlier? The little symbol that's on the Egyptian crowns that represents enlightenment. Enlightenment and protection, by the way. That's the real reason bullets bounce off his chest. All right? If you notice that little spit curl on his forehead, Christopher Reeve always had that little S curl on his head. That's a representation of the Uraeus as well. All right? The red cape. All right? Horus, there's a poem, and you can look it up when you go home and get online. Look up the Horus, the Red Cloak. And it's where Horus is speaking about himself and saying that I have gone farther and flown higher than any god before me. And I promise you this by my red cloak. All right? Everything about Superman is Haru, the original black man, except he's white. All right? Give me your face. That's Haru. That's what Superman should look like. Okay? I did that, by the way. Go! Catwoman. Let's see her. That's her alter ego, Selena Kyle. All right, she got a dual identity, just like Hathor and Sekhmet. That's Hathor, Queen of Heaven, and that's Sekhmet. All right, that's Sekhmet, the Avenger of Ra. Ancient Nubia. Let's talk about the Nubians. By the way, the Nubians on the map here. This is Africa, this is Egypt, and Nubia is just right around here. Okay? Let's keep talking. They had pyramids too.
Absolutely.
Right now, they want to tell you that the Nubians were even less civilized than the Egyptians. All right? But let me show you something right quick. Upper Egypt is down here. Lower Egypt is down here.
Right.
All right? They flipped the whole map upside down and told us what was up was down and what was right was wrong. All right? Upper Egypt started down in Nubia.
Right.
Ethiopia, Sheba, Kush. That's where the Egyptian civilization sprouted from and grew up from there. Lower Egypt is where some of the Mediterraneans and the Tamahu and people like that started creeping in. All right? And they had to be conquered and reconquered in order to become unified. Okay? Well, they got enlightened from the bottom up. All right? From Upper Egypt to Lower Egypt. All right? Not the other way around. All right? So all the kings, the queens of civilization, all of those concepts came once again from Blackest Africa. These right here are Nubian pyramids. Nubian pyramids. All right? The Dogon.
Come on.
Let's talk a little bit about the Dogon. Masters of astronomy, mathematics, Sirius A and Sirius B.
Come on.
These people knew about concepts of astronomy that in their time they couldn't even check to verify if what they was talking about was right when they was telling people. They had no way of even checking until centuries later. And they was like, dang, how did they know that?
Right.
How did they know? And what did they know? They said Sirius, the star Sirius, is the center of the universe. They said not only is it the center of the universe, it's where this universe or this galaxy was born from. That's where we're from. That's what they said. Then they said, well, I tell you what, it's another star that's so small and so dense, but it's his partner, Sirius B. It's floating right next to him. You probably can't see him. This is Sirius A. This is Sirius B.
Come on with it.
Now you can't see this, but with their most powerful Hubble telescope.
Right.
And they wonder how black men in the desert sitting with their feet in dirt
Come on.
figured that out.
Right.
All right? That's our people. That's our lineage. What's important about that? It's important because this is where we came from. This is in your genetic makeup. The genetic makeup that says that every time you have a child, if you get with somebody of melanated inclination, that they're going to have thick lips, broad nose, curly hair, and brown skin. Your skin is your ID. This is what gets you in. So it doesn't matter. Somebody said to me earlier today, well, if you go ask an African, the Africans would say, you know what? Y'all lost. Get over it. And I said, well, just because you lost, does that mean that you have to stay defeated? The answer is no. It does not mean that. And not only does it not mean that, that doesn't mean that you can take away my heritage either, because I'm not still living over here.
That's right.
wherever I am, I'm still African. That blood still beats in my body. All right? And it's on my skin. It's on my kids' skin.
And another thing, speaking of that, even before slavery, you know, we were still here. Also.
We were still here. Yes, sir. That's the truth. We're gonna get into that. I got some more stuff. We're gonna get into that. Ethiopia. Let's keep on going. I'm trying to go down some of these ancient civilizations. Yes.
I was wondering if you was gonna touch on Atlantis or anything like that. Right.
Y'all want me to touch on Atlantis a little bit?
How many weeks are you gonna be here?
I'm gonna be doing this for the duration every Monday.
Oh shit, we good.
So yeah.
He ain't got no time because see, there's more people that really need to hear it.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna just touch on it a little bit. Going back even beyond Egyptian history. Before Egyptian history, there was something called Atlantis.
Come on with it.
All right, Atlantis. The tale of Atlantis. For one, it came from Egypt, and even Aristotle, the person who conveyed the story, he'll tell you that he got it from his grandfather, Solon, I believe, who got it from an Egyptian priest who told him the story about Atlantis. Okay, so he admitted that, but due to, you know, over time and them not wanting to, you know, tell the true origin of the story, they'd say, well, he came up with the story. All right, but he actually said that he got it from an Egyptian priest, the story of Atlantis. Atlantis was a place that had such great technology that supposedly they had flying vehicles. They had, you know, like we always have been hoping in the future to have flying cars. Yeah. They had flying cars. They could do things with their minds. They were, you know, all of this was, all their chakras were activated. Right. It was as if the gods had walked the earth. All right. Now, before I throw some of you off, let me explain this whole concept. All right. There are two concepts right now about how life came to be on Earth. One is called evolution. Evolution is the theory that we came from amoebas and monkeys, and then we grew in lizards, and then we turned into people. Okay? The opposite theory, which there's a lot more proof for, but which you're not going to find a whole lot of information in books about, is called devolution. That we devolved from higher order beings.
Come on.
All right, so that those angels, when in the Bible it says the gods of men, the sons of God came down to the daughters of men. All right, devolution is that we were divine beings and we came down, or we materialized on this earth through a process of devolution. That devolution works by a theory called vibration. All right?
Come on.
Vibration. If I seen a drum around here. If I beat this drum, all right, at first you're going to hear it, and then it's going to fade out, right? All right, or like when you hit a guitar string, bang, eventually that sound is going to fade out. Is that tape still running? Okay, eventually that sound is going to start to fade. All right, so the theory of vibration is when you start at a high vibration, eventually that vibration keeps going lower and lower and lower and lower. Well, that's what happened to us. You start as a divine being, as an angel, as a god, and you vibrate lower and lower and lower and lower into this incarnation. And when we first touched down on earth, that's when we still had a lot of our powers. We still was rolling. That's why you had Horus flying in the sky and Sekhmet the Avenger and all these wonderful mystical things that they tell you is mythology now. But that was really doing that stuff. Okay? Well, at first, we still had all of that power, all that energy. But we kept going lower and lower. And pretty soon, all those chakras start deactivating. All that power starts going down. All right? The process of devolution. If you want to read more about it, there's a scholar named Michael Cremo. Michael Cremo has a book called Devolution. He also has a book called Forbidden Archaeology. You need to get this book because in Forbidden Archaeology, what he's saying is he has fossil evidence of dinosaurs and people walking right next to each other.
Right.
at the same time.
Absolutely.
Now, they will admit to you that dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. He also found bones with gold chains on them, like Egyptian gold chains, in coal mines that are millions of years old. Now, they've been digging up coal for centuries over here. And they find it, the deeper you go, the older the earth. All right? And they're finding millions of years old people with gold chains on. We're not talking about monkeys.
Yeah.
They were talking modern humans. And what they do is, because that doesn't fit with the accepted archaeology of our time, they throw that in the vault. And they don't put that out because, well, for one, they got to change all the history books. And for two, they got to tell you that all this stuff that they've been finding, they haven't been telling you about. But they've known all of this stuff for decades. All right? So, that's all I'm going to say about Atlantis right now. Because it's a lot more. And Lemuria. Lemuria, by the way, if you break that down, Lemuria would be the counterpart to Atlantis. And Moorish people, anytime you hear Mu, they're talking about black people.
Right.
All right, they try to tell you that Moorish people now are Arabians or tawny Moors, real light-skinned Berbers, all right? But Moorish people, Moor has always meant black. In ancient history, when they said anything about a Moor, they were talking about a black person. All right, that was just like they call us niggas now. We call ourselves niggas, and even niggas. In Africa, they have something called the Naga. All right, that's a line of kings and queens. The Negrito, all right, another black civilization. The Nigger River, all right. Nigger, the term nigger, you know where it really comes from? Is because they said we was being stingy. That's why it came to be. First, it was synonymous with stingy and ignorant. Because they said, we know y'all got the goods. We know you know something that you're not telling us. You just giving us these, you know, we was just giving them half the story. When they was talking to the Dogon didn't tell them everything. Yeah. Right. The Egyptians didn't tell them everything. The priests wouldn't even let them into Egypt for centuries. All right, so they said, you niggers ain't telling us nothing. You being niggardly. You keeping the information. You being stingy. That's what nigger means. But nigger, right here, is still a country named nigger. We call it Niger to make us feel better. What is the country called? It's nigger. Okay, the Nigger River. All right, it sounds harsh because that's what's been perpetrated on us. But really, that's part of our history. I'm sorry. Teach. We niggas. we not like they said it is. And it did come to become a form of abuse and denigration. And so something can become what you want it to become. That's the magic of this stuff. Right. Here's the magic. You can make anything what you want it to be. If I want it to be an insult, it's an insult. Yeah. If I want all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and if people trickle in, they trickle in. Okay. Just to get started, I'm gonna introduce myself. My name is Hero. My God-given name is, or birth name is Keith Young. I was born and raised here in Detroit. I've lived all over Detroit, from the east side to the west side. The reason why I'm doing this, well, let me back up. Let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm a former Detroit police officer. I was a police officer for about 8 years. I had to stop being a police officer because a lot of the things that I was doing over time, I started to catch on that I was really serving corporations and companies more than I was serving the people. And my heart is really for the people. It always has been. When I was in elementary school, I was a savior. I was all about trying to actually help people, not do them any harm or any damage. And I just couldn't keep doing things that were against the interests of my people. To further that, you know, a lot of the calls that I went on as a police officer were based around domestic violence and based around pretty much the situation being bad neighbors. We don't know how to treat each other. And so it was my feeling that I could do much more to help people by becoming an educator. So that's what I did. I left the police force to start a company called the Creation Station Computer Graphics Learning Center. The goal of that was to teach the youth how to do graphics and web design and animation and publishing as a means of showing them another avenue or something else that they can do besides criminal activity, besides rap and hip-hop, besides sports. I wanted to give them a new perspective because a lot of kids don't know that they can do those things. A lot of the comic books and cartoons that they watch and pay money for, they don't really know that they can make them themselves. So my idea was, let me show them how to make them. So as an aside, besides being a police officer, previous to that, I had been a graphic designer. And I've been in the field of graphic design for over 15 years now. So that leads me into something that really got me into this kind of information, Black history, is that I had to, as a graphic designer, you study how to communicate your message to people visually. So I learned about colors and how those affect people. I learned about images and how those affect people. So how to take an image and some colors and some type and make them speak to you, your subconscious mind. Get them to speak to you subliminally. That was my job. All right, so I've been doing that for years. And as I got into education and I started learning about Black history and about more about media and publishing, I began to realize all these images that we see of us are manufactured. Every image that you see on TV, in a commercial, in a video game, in the music industry, all of those images are manufactured, and they're manufactured and put together on purpose to talk to your subconscious mind. Now I'm thinking at first, well, you know what? It's just talking to your mind to get you to buy something. My goal as a graphic designer is I'm going to sell you on a restaurant or a cafe or buy some clothes, buy some jeans, buy my service, okay? But more than that, the symbology talks to you on a much more symbolic level when it's talking about the color of your skin, the texture of your hair, the way you feel about yourself. And as I got deeper and deeper into it, I began to see these movies where these negative portrayals of us, this is supposed to be after slavery, right? Right. But I still see us shucking and jiving and cooning and, beating our Black men, beating women and being negative towards each other as the norm in a movie, right, or as comedy. It's funny, so it's a way to play it off. And I'm like, beyond just the obvious insult of it, there's also a lot of subliminal stuff going on. A lot of it is not only subliminal, but they're taking your history and recoloring it and then selling it back to you as if it was original. So in this presentation, I have some movie clips where I actually show you some examples of that. I got some clips from the Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen. I have plenty. It's a multimedia presentation, so I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. As far as them taking our history, ancient African history, ancient Egyptian history, and then repackaging it up and putting a white face on it and selling it to you. Right. All right. Now, somebody I spoke with earlier wanted me to reiterate that, for one, this is not about white versus black. All right, which this really is not. What this information is really for is for you, for your insides. All right, for you to take this information in to help you transform yourself. It's not about all this stuff that's outside of you. You understand what's outside to help you really get a deeper understanding of what's inside. Now, what I'm really trying to get to is you getting to understand your inside and make transformation from the inside, without, not the other way around. So a lot of times when we just get into this information, the history and things like that, and it's like, well, the black man is this and the white man did that, and they keeping us down and they're doing this and they're doing that, and we immediately ascribe all this power to the oppressor that they don't deserve. All right? Because a lot of this we had something to do with too. And because of our ignorance and because of our apathy at this point, we have to change that. We have to change it. Nobody else can change it but us. All right? But what I do want to shine the light on is some of the ways that people are being deceived. Some of the ways that you may not have seen yourself where you really should be seeing yourself. So that's really what this is all about. And how I got started with I had been telling myself, Keith, you're going to start doing lectures, you're going to start doing lectures. I've been learning all this information for a long time. And I couldn't quite get off my butt and actually do the lectures. But I was talking to my son's teacher in school at the beginning of the school year and was asking about what he's going to learn this year. And she asked me, well, what would you like him to learn? I said, well, I want him to learn about history. I want him to learn about geography and how the continents relate to each other, how people relate to each other around the world. I want him to learn how to really get into reference materials, looking things up for himself. And I want him to learn about black history. She said, oh, that's perfect. Because we're going to start with black history this year. We're going to start with slavery and go up from there.
Wow. She's going to start with slavery.
She said, I'm going to start with slavery and go up from there. I said, say what?
We weren't doing that before.
I'm like, have you ever heard of an Egyptian, a Nubian, an Ethiopian, or anybody? She was like, and she was genuinely surprised. Now, this is a young woman. She's about 25, 26, and she's a sister. So I know she doesn't know any better. I know when she went to school, they didn't teach her. Okay, so how can you know if you weren't taught? And I can't blame you for that. How can I blame you for being ignorant of something you don't even have any clue about? And that's where this really, it was like, okay, get off your butt. You really got to do something or say something, at least to the people around you, you know, just to share something with somebody. Because there's too much information all around us, and it's like we're oblivious to that because it's not really speaking to us. We don't know the symbols. We've forgotten what the symbols and the signs mean. We have kind of a sort of amnesia amongst us as black people. The reason being because when they got off the boat and they knocked you in your head and then they separated you from your culture and your friends and your family and then they told you, well, you can't read and you can't get an education. Well, all that time that we did spend in slavery, hundreds of years, well, we was languishing in ignorance. And then when they said, okay, well, we'll free your physical bonds and let you loose, they still kept us mentally ignorant. And everybody hears this saying a lot. If you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. All right. Well, because of the fear that we had over, you could lose your life for reading if they caught you reading. Or if they caught somebody teaching you, they could go to prison. All right. So there was an innate fear of reading that had been inculcated into us that we still quite haven't gotten over. Because this information is everywhere, but not a lot of us are really into it or really can understand what the signs and symbols mean or even really where to start. So my lectures are geared towards people who don't really know where to start. This is like a beginnings for people. I'm not really talking to people. If you know more African history than Dr. Ivan Van Sertima and Joseph Ben Nalkinen put together, this probably is not the lecture for you. Because I'm going to say a lot of basic rudimentary things, and you can go, I know that, I heard that, I know that. That's a given, and I'm sorry, you may have. But this lecture right here is designed for basics, for people that are just kind of getting it. And I want to kind of show some ancient history. I do promise to twist it around a little bit so you can see a different perspective. So it may be the same stuff, but I guarantee you I'm going to show it to you from a different light, at least a little bit. Okay? All right, so let's move on. Now, mind you, this I designed this for grade schoolers, middle school and high school. And this video right here, I know y'all don't mind watching Michael Jackson real quickly. Okay, I didn't think y'all would mind watching Michael real quick. So outside of enjoying watching Michael Jackson, because I could watch him anytime, there was actually a point to me putting that video in there, especially for younger kids, to kind of give them a view of where we came from, because we don't even really have any visuals. It's kind of hard to find. If you're looking for pictures of ancient Egypt, then you're not going to really find no pictures with us in them unless you look to the original source. So you actually will find the brown pictures all over the walls, actually.
Right.
But when you look for media or movies, videos, it's Charlton Heston and Elizabeth Taylor and all these other people you see sporting our history. All right. Now, Michael Jackson actually had the audacity to put black people in the video. Not just any black people either.
Yeah.
At that time, those people were the stars of their time.
That's right.
Those were you might consider them gods or Neteru, I'm sure you all know what that is in here. But at that time, those were the stars. Eddie Murphy, I heard y'all, that's Eddie Murphy, that's Zeus, and that half the kids don't remember who those people are.
Right.
Especially before a lot of them let Hollywood get to them and they made some changes in their lifestyle. Right? They don't really remember a strong black man, African king looking Eddie Murphy. They kind of see the big fruity now when they see him in the cartoony movies. And a beautiful black queen woman, Iman. We don't really see images like that. We get to look at Lil' Kim and what's the new girl? Nicki Minaj. That's the new flavor of the month. That's the images that they show us of who we are supposed to be and what we're supposed to be like, as opposed to the kings and queens that we were. Now, when I showed this to the kids and I asked them, well, what did you notice about the video? And they actually made some very good observations. One of the young ladies said, well, I noticed that the queen was actually kind of cruel. She was having their heads cut off and she was kind of mean. That's actually a good observation. That was a good point, because with being a king and being a queen, over time, history has bared out that power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. All right, so at one time, as kings and queens, we was the ones doing the ass kicking. We was the ones changing the laws, and we were the ones that had slaves. All right, the term slave actually comes from the word Slav. A Slavic people who are from the Poland, German area. They were white people. And so from the Slav or the Slavic came the term Slav, right? A Slav being an indentured servant. A person who had to either, you had to work for a certain amount of time till you earned your freedom, or you could never be free, depending on the type of slavery or in servitude that you were in at that time. All right? But I want to give you that overall view of the good and the bad. At one time, we really were exalted in celebration and had the highest civilization on this world to date. To date, no one has ever been able to build the pyramids that we built. They can't even figure it out. They take the biggest machines that they have and break them trying to figure out how to move one of those big old stones.
Right.
All right, let alone build any new ones. All right, so to this day, they still don't know how. Well, if they would read the information, they'll tell you how. I said they did it with their mind. But they don't believe that. It's impossible. You can't do it with your mind. But all that aside, that's a different conversation. They can't figure it out, but we did. All right? So, to remember the time is very appropriate, because I'm trying to remind all of us of something. Let me move on. These are Black History's heroes, as most of our students know them. Can you all name some of these people? I'm sure you can. Frederick Douglass. Elijah McCoy. No, ain't no Elijah McCoy.
Oh, that's
W.E. Du Bois.
Yeah, Du Bois.
All right. What about this handsome guy?
I think who that is.
Nat Turner.
Nat Turner.
Oh, I don't recognize about the hat.
Don't recognize him? Okay. And I know you know Harriet Tubman. George Washington Carver. All right. Move on. All right. Now, name me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 histories of black heroes of black history before the time of slavery. All those that I just showed you was after slavery.
Right.
Give me 5 before slavery. Imhotep, Shaka Zulu.
Of course, Tariq.
Asantewaa.
That's fine.
That's
Okay.
already happened.
All right. Now, imagine when I asked the kids in school that.
Yeah. Might say Chakra, baby.
Zero. They don't know any. Did not know any. Most of our kids in the inner city don't know any. I'm talking about 7th graders. They should know that by now, by then. Okay? So that's what my purpose in doing this is for. Alright, so what I'm about to show you are some clips from the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Now there's lots of black and Egyptian history in this movie. You will be shocked at how many movies have Egyptian history in them.
References. Oh my God.
References, mythology.
What's that? Stargate.
Stargate, Star Wars. I got some Star Wars in here. And I got some really interesting things about Star Wars. I'm really excited. Y'all gonna see some real good stuff with that one. But this right here, he's gonna explain how they know that there's a civilization much older than you can imagine. He's going to explain what they look like. He's going to show black pictures. The name, I'm just going to...
Yeah, I remember that part too.
Wait, did you? Go back and click on it. Click on the actual video. Click right on it. There you go.
Any of these look like the symbols you saw? Where did you get these? Before I got fired, I put the 7th crown jewel. 7 years alien research exploits one inescapable fact. The Transformers, they've been here a long time. How do I know? Archaeologists found these unexplained markings in ancient ruins all over the world. China, Egypt, Greece. Shot in 1932. These are symbols you're seeing in your head? Same ones over here, right? So, tell me, how did they end up all drawing the same thing? Aliens. And I think some of them stayed. Check this out. Project Flyleaf. Robots. In disguise. Hiding here. Oh, we detected radioactive signatures all across the country. I pleaded on my knee.
Alright? So, he said, through Project S7, which S7 is a reference to, that's a little Uraeus crown, the snake, the enlightenment, the 7 chakras. So, according to, does everybody know what chakras are? Before I move forward, let me explain that real quick. Chakras are energy centers in your body. Okay? There's 7 of them. They're placed all up and down your meridian. You familiar with that? Okay, so that's what chakras are. So and there's 7 major ones. Some depends on the system. Some say 8, some say 9, some say even more. But generally it's about 7, okay? So when he says S7, he's talking about the enlightened ones. You have to be enlightened. He talked that Uraeus serpent or the serpent on the crown. That means that you had raised your kundalini up your chakra system to become enlightened, okay? Those people, he said, have a whole mission over the world to look for old civilizations, right? And he found them. He said Project Black Knife is the name of the project. Then he says, and we found this stuff all over the world. He starts showing pictures of black cars and stuff like that. But he says, well, we know who they are. They're aliens. All right, so that's the next thing. In a lot of movies, they say, because all this, they can't deny the proof of all this ancient civilization and all this high technology that existed in that time, where they say, well, it wasn't people, it was aliens. They did it. Or the aliens came down and taught the people how to do it. All right? Anything to refute the fact that it was us who did it. All right? So moving on to the next one. He goes even deeper. Click on the actual video.
They went through Kansas and they actually documented a tribe of African people that they ran across called the Kaws tribe. K-A-W-S. Look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they could find that by themselves. They had a black man help them find the car.
That's right. That's true. Okay, moving on. These pyramids. Pyramids all over the world.
Except for Europe.
except for Europe. These are mounds in Thailand. They're called the Chocolate Hills.
Come on,
right?
Come on.
They don't even know how they got there. Look at these vast hills.
Wow.
The chocolate, you can look it up. They're called the Chocolate Hills. All right. The pyramids of China. All right. This is where your people showed up.
That's right.
Wow.
All right. Remember in the Transformers they were saying there's clues about them all over the world.
Right.
This is the clues.
2012, they say China.
I went to Africa, and I swear, we went to a village, and those people look Chinese. I said, no, you know, I'm into reggae, and it's no matter where you come from, you're still an African. Them people look, I knew Chinese came from Africa.
Okay, what time is it? I'm sorry. What time is it?
9:12.
Oh, okay. All right.
Nation time. I
So,
like that.
we was talking earlier, I touched on chakras. All right, I told you there's ancient medicine, healing, and enlightenment. These are the energy centers in your body.
Come on.
All right. Now, these are correlated to. Remember, maybe some of you all weren't here when I first was speaking. I was telling you all that I've been a graphic designer for about 15 years, a little more than 15 years, and I use colors, pictures, and words to speak to you, to send a message to you, to make you hungry, to make you want to purchase things, to make you want to buy my service. All right. Now, before I got into this knowledge, I didn't know why. I just knew certain colors, red and yellow, makes you hungry. I just knew that. I knew that based on my study of color and advertising. Okay. Well, I didn't know the spiritual reason why red and yellow makes you hungry. Red is your root chakra.
Come on.
All right. That's the base instinct. It's talking about survival and security. Right. It's where you get the earth from. You just get that strong. You feel planted to the earth and everything down here. That's the lowest. That's the densest form of energy. I think I heard you earlier talking about the denser your energy, the more firmly you're planted on the earth as a third dimensional person. Okay. The second chakra is orange. The abode it's in this area, your groin area. Okay. It's talking about your emotions, your sexual energy, and your creativity. All right. So, yellow, the third chakra. This is your solar plexus area. All right. Your stomach. This deals with your mental functions, your power, control, freedom, your hunger, your passion. Okay. So when McDonald's has the fries, red box, yellow M.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. I want that. Your passion is telling you, I want McDonald's. They're using the colors to sell you.
Sure.
And it's correlated to your spirit. That's why the colors. That's why it works. If you wonder why those colors work, that's why.
Well, what color I need to put out in front of the store?
Well, yellow, red, and yellow works for food.
Okay.
All right. It's still very attractive, but pinks and blacks are very good for advertisement on the outside. It's very eye-catching. All right. The fourth chakra is green, the heart chakra. Love, balance, and compassion. This is where you get your equilibrium from. That's why I was saying you got to get this right. Because this balances out all the chakras. All right. Going up higher to the fifth chakra. This is in this area, the throat area. All right. Speech and self-expression, power and vibration. The sixth chakra is indigo, all right? It's the third eye area. Psychic abilities, imagination, clairvoyance, all of that stuff that they say, those psychic phenomena, all right, that seem to be so popular. Once again, that was a whole movement around the 80s too. The whole UFOs and psychic phenomenon, and you know, they used to have lots of TV shows about it. And violet, the crown chakra, spiritual connection, understanding, knowing, bliss, and oneness. All right, so once you have opened up all those chakras, you have realized all the power that's inside of you. And then you can say, I am. All right, that's what Jesus said, I am. And they asked, they was like, they was looking for something to throw at him. Why were they wanting to throw something at him? They tell you in the Bible, it says, well, because you're saying that you're equal with God. If you're saying I am, he's like, well, it's not robbery for me to say I'm equal with God. I am.
Yeah.
I am that I am. And when you realize that you are, then people want to kill you if you say it, because one, they don't realize that they are.
Right.
But two, they don't want you to be. And how dare you, because they've been taught that you're nothing. Compared to God, you're nothing. You're a speck of sand, you're dust in his eye, you're nothing. And you should be humble and poor and begging, and that's your position and your state in this world and in this life. You're nothing. But even in the Bible it says, when you raise Christ up, then all men will be drawn to you.
Yes.
I'll draw all men to me if you raise Christ up. Raise Christ in yourself. Christ is not a name, it's a title. Christ means anointed. All right? It's a form of oil. All right? Just like you got Christ, you have Christos. It comes from Christos. That's why your grandma used to cook with something called Crisco. All right? It's anointing oil. Even in the Old Testament, it talks about when David got anointed king, they poured olive oil on his head. All right? They anointed him as king, and he became I am. He was there, I am. All right? He was there, God. David was. Later, Solomon, the soul of all of this stuff. Once you start learning the science behind it, it's you like, okay, that makes a whole lot more sense than. Does it? I'm sorry. Am I losing something? Okay.
Quick question. Would you equate the sixth chakra to? I've heard recent information in regards to pineal gland, which allows us to secrete the melanin.
Yes.
Once again, this is why Caucasians who are melanin deficient trying to get this melanin back, because to even vibrate at the sixth chakra, you need melanin. You can't even think about getting to the seventh chakra or Christ consciousness, Buddhahood. There's so many different names that you can use. Would you agree with that?
I would, but I'm gonna say this, because they came from us. It's really no way to say which one is melanin deficient and which one has a calcified pineal gland and all of this. We really can't say, because they are us in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so I can't condemn all of them and say that they don't have, they can't reach a certain level. I don't know, to be honest with you, because tomorrow, if a black woman can have a white baby.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
All right, and so am I going to say that they got a calcified pineal gland or they can't achieve what you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's why I can't really speak to that and say yay or nay.
Right.
But I do know, supposedly, based on the science, that the less melanin you have, the less likely it is for you to have a very healthy pineal gland.
Right.
I don't know if it's something that they could do to overcome it. I know that they've been trying. They've been trying like heck. They're eating us.
Literally.
Okay, literally. Melanotan. What do you think is in? What do you think is in?
Viagra.
Viagra.
Oh my God.
Teach.
Melanin. Pineal glands. They eating us so they can get a hard on.
Oh wow. I didn't know that.
Teach.
They eating us. All right. They know the power that's inside of us. They are okay. Here's the thing. They're eating us to propagate the species. They give them fertility drugs and give us birth control.
Right.
Yeah.
They give us abortion. They give us 40 ounces, which makes you sterile. All right, they trying to cut off our reproduction and they're trying to multiply theirs because they can't. For some reason, their reproductive systems are shutting down.
Right.
So they got to keep giving them shots of. They got to save their eggs, put them on ice, freeze them, put 9 of them in, and hope that one of them take. And then when they wind up having 10 babies, like a litter of kids, like an animal, then you like, oh wow, they had 10 babies. Them babies all was implanted.
Right.
They froze them jokers on ice, put them in there, fertilized them, and hope one of them was going to survive.
All 10.
And all 10 lived. I mean, that's what they're doing. So. Okay, come on with it. Come on, right? Yeah. Thundercats. I was showing the youngsters that how once again the chakras show up in cartoons.
Come on.
Okay. So the sword that he has, on the hilt of it has 7 jewels. When he took that 7 jewels, put it up to his forehead.
Come on, teach.
Then he got sight beyond sight.
Right.
7 jewels.
Yeah.
His third eye opened up. You seen that little tiger eye? Right here? His third eye opened up.
Come on, teach.
And he can see his friends. He can see where they need help. He can call for help. All of that. This is a cartoon. That's your science. Alright? This is where the Thundercats lived at. Don't that look just like a Sphinx?
Yeah.
That's your science. That's the Sphinx. Cat's Lair. That's where they lived at. Cat's Lair. Okay? Star Wars.
Come on.
Now we get to the good stuff. Star Wars. Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is Horus.
Come on, teach.
Alright? Skywalker. Horus takes 12 steps across the sky. He's Skywalker. Okay? He's Horus. Okay?
Come on.
That's Luke Skywalker. Horus. Okay? Let's keep going. Where else you see 12? 12 steps across the sky, we got 12 hours. Horus, anagrammatically, anagrammatic writing is to take letters and mix them around and make a new letter. So Horus, anagrammatically, is hours.
Come on.
12 steps across the sky. You got to take 12 steps to get to freedom from Alcoholics Anonymous. In order to get clean and sober, you take 12 steps. 12-step program. Right? Luke Skywalker and Yoda.
Come on, teach it.
Let's keep going. This Yoda was his teacher, okay? He rolled around on his back, whispering things in his ear, telling him, the force flows through you. That's where your power comes from. We're all one, and the energy is all around you, and this is just a crude covering, right? This is a statue of Horus, all right? On top of his head is the god Bes. All right? The god Bes is the god of children, the god of childbirth, and the god of knowledge and wisdom. He's riding on top of Horus, on his back, just like Luke Skywalker. Go back to Luke Skywalker and Yoda. That's Bes.
Right.
That's Egyptian. That's thousands of years old. That's where George Lucas got the whole idea from. Okay? Once again, on the side right here, you see this little lock of hair? That little lock of hair?
Yeah.
When they get to the Jedi Council and the trainees, they had that side lock of hair.
Right.
That's called the Horus lock. Okay? Now let me break that. Let me show you how that's. They call ancient Egyptian is magic now. Because the Horus lock is where we get the term warlock. A warlock is a male magician. He's a Jedi. He has the Force. When he has the Force, he was making the swords fly around. He was jumping all over the place. He could read people's minds.
Teach.
That's Horus.
Teach.
That's your son. Alright? Also, the mythology goes that Horus's job was to avenge his father.
Yep.
The god of who is Osiris, the god of the perfect black. What color did Darth Vader wear?
Black.
Black. Perfect black. Darth Vader is Osiris. Luke Skywalker wouldn't kill his father. He said, you know what, it's still good in him. I can redeem him. That's Horus's job, to redeem his father. That's the mythology. That every story has a hero, and most of the time it has a lot to do with the son saving or redeeming his father, or bringing honor back to his family. That's Horus, because his brother Set had killed Osiris and taken his place. All right. Thus, the time of darkness. So, when we're talking about the hero fighting the forces of darkness, he was fighting through the time when his evil brother had taken over. Set, his brother, when Horus is in charge, it's daylight. He's the god of the skies. He's the god of sun. When his brother is in charge, it's nighttime. Set. That's why we have the term sun set. When the sun sets, darkness takes over the world.
Come on, teach.
So that's his job to fight it. He had to learn from somebody, and that was Bes. His mother took him and hid him in a swamp. All right? Go back and watch Star Wars. And where Luke Skywalker had to learn was a swamp. He flew to a swamp and found Yoda, and he's running and jumping through the swamp. Well, it wasn't people, it was aliens. They did it. Or the aliens came down and taught the people how to do it. All right? Anything to refute the fact that it was us who did it. All right? So moving on to the next one. He goes even deeper. Click on the actual video.
was no other energy source here. On Earth. On another source. Okay, and these symbols, maps in my head that lead me there. Talk to your automatic friends about this? No, the source is before them. Whatever the energon source is, it predates them. It's before them. So it comes before them? Correct. Well, then report. Unless we can talk to the Decepticon. I'm not on speaking terms.
Actually, I am.
Okay, so he just gave us a real important clue. He said, well, this information is so old, I don't know anybody who can decipher it. Right? He said, well, the Autobots don't know, right?
Yeah.
The only ones who would know is the Decepticon. So who are they saying are the Decepticons? Who are the oldest people on the Earth? Us.
Right.
So the Decepticons in this movie, let's just suspend our disbelief for just a moment. In this movie, the Decepticons are black people, the Autobots are white people. Let's just suspend our disbelief just for a moment in this movie. All right, he says they're the ones who know. He also keeps saying, it's something in my head. The symbols in my head are telling me something. All right? Now, it's even deeper. It's something that our kids have going on and have had going on for some decades, and they don't even know it. Our history is creeping into their mind, and they don't know how to decipher it. All right, hip-hop, and they speak in rhyme. The Egyptians have something called words of power. All right, those words of power were, you would call them magical spells today. They would speak something and it would manifest. That's how they say the laws of attraction work. How you can stand in front of the mirror and say, I will be successful. Today I'm going to have a good day. And those things come into being. That is words of power. And very often they used to say them in rhyme. When you used to watch Disney movies and they had like a sorcerer or a magician, they used to say a little rhyme like, hither and thither, there and biver, I command you to shrink. Okay, they were rhyming. They were doing those little limericks, and we just thought that was part of the cartoon. No, the rhyming is adding power to the words. Egyptians knew that. Young kids that created hip-hop was putting power behind their words. That's why it took off around the world as a worldwide phenomenon. They were becoming the griots of Africa, the storytellers, and they were putting energy behind their words. The beatboxing, let me share this with you, and I'm sure you probably already know this. Metu Neter, the language of the Egyptians, is written in hieroglyphics. Those hieroglyphics do not denote any vowels. So the vowels are all consonants. So, let me see if you remember this. I'm going to see if I can do it right, because I used to do it when I was a kid. Beatboxer, right? Right. All right, does that sound like speaking without vowels? All consonants? Yeah. Pata. All right? That's what the kids was doing. They didn't even know it. This stuff is rising up in us, and we don't know what to do with it. Okay, this stuff is so powerful, and we really didn't know what we was doing with it. So when the kids started rhyming about guns and hoes and crack, and my life is terrible, we witnessed an explosion in the black community of guns and hoes and violence and bad times like we had never seen before. We had it bad in the black community, but the rap kids, when they switched it in their mind that these stories was so important to tell and to keep it real, all right? Well, the words that they were speaking demanded that they keep it real because they was manifesting that stuff. If you're just telling a story, I'm like, okay, first of all, as a criminal, as a cop, I know I'm not going to stand on the block and tell you, me and Ray was hanging out and I shot Pookie, and then I went over my girl's house, and then you're not going to tell all of that that's going on. But because they were telling those stories, they were bringing that stuff into reality. And eventually it had to become real. That's why that whole keep it real thing happened, and they really got gangster with it. Now I'm going to tell you, no, I'm not just telling a story. I really will shoot you in the face. So then you start having all the rappers going to jail. All of them carrying guns. They don't know no better because they don't know that this is their history and that this is our power inside of us. That rhyming and that rhythm and that beatboxing and that music, that bass heavy music, which vibrates at your root chakra, your sexual chakra, is tearing the world up. We tearing the world up with it. If we can show them something better, the power that they have inside them, then maybe we can get them to redirect that energy. And it's going to be hard. You know, when kids, when they do redirect that energy, they try to come up against them. Something happens to them, they have a bad time, something happens with their contract, they wind up shot or dead, something like that. Lauryn Hill, I don't know what the heck happened to her. They got rid of her and put Lil' Kim up there. All right, but she was speaking for us. She was speaking for the people that was becoming enlightened and are intelligent. And she was putting it out there. And that has, if you don't remember, I do. When the Fugees came out, a whole different mindset started happening with the young kids. I was just there. I was in '94. I was going to college, and people's minds started changing. When they broke up and she left the game like she did, that just left it wide open for all the foolishness. Nobody really replaced them. That was that well known. Of course, we have conscious rappers, Mos Def and Talib Kweli, blacks. You know, it's a lot of them. Right. But none that have reached that height of fame. Right. That just took over. The whole world was listening to them. All right, that's enough of my ranting on that. Let's keep moving.
Oh, I know that. That's the language of the primes. But I don't read it with these guys. Where the frick did you find those of these guys?
Is this them?
Yeah. Satyrs, pal.
Black
Old
card.
to the old. Well, they've been here for thousands of years looking for something. I don't know what. Nobody tells me nothing. Oh, they'll translate those symbols for you. And I know where to find them.
Show us.
Okay, what's prime? What's a prime? What does prime mean? The prime number. What else does prime mean? Before, original, first. All right, you just said it's the language of the prime. Origin of. Okay, that's right. He's telling you who these characters are.
Only a prime can defeat me, and now only one remains.
On to the next one.
I just sat here alone. I never did a thing worth doing until now. What's this? Take my parts.
That's a black Decepticon, a black bird plane is giving Optimus, he's about to give his life and give Optimus his parts. Take my parts. Now watch what happens. He pulls his heart out, and they're going to put all his parts on Optimus Prime. He said, once you get my parts, you're going to have a power you've never known. Autobots can't fly, can they? No. They call them Autobots because they stay on the ground. They roll. They're cars. He got that black character, the black man's parts, and took off like lightning. All right. Now, it's this part in the movie. When I first was watching it with my kids, that got me to say, wait a minute, what the heck did I just see? This is what, man, I had to watch this movie about 3-4 times to figure out what the heck was going on. But check this out. He's fighting the prime Decepticon. Watch what he says to this guy. The black man. Give me your face. Now watch what they show. You see that desecrated, statue right there with the face ripped off? He said, I rise and you fall, standing on top of him. Now, pardon my English, but I said, hell no. I can't believe I just saw that. He says he takes this pipe, puts it around his face, and rips it off and says, give me your face. They show you what they've been doing to the statues. They've been doing that for centuries. Tearing the faces off. They don't want you to know what their facial features really look like. Just now. Just now. They're taking all that stuff.
And taking the parts reminds me of what happened in Atlanta years ago when those little boys were coming up missing.
Yeah.
And they were still in the melanin.
Oh yeah, the pineal glands and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't get too much more blatant than that. I mean, but if you don't know, me and my kids just watching it, they like, yeah, that was sweet. I'm like, no, that wasn't sweet. That was real far from sweet, actually. That was offensive.
Right.
Okay?
Right in your face.
So, then they're going to take it a step further. Check out Optimus Prime now.
Right.
He don't need the black man's power no more. I don't need this stuff no more. So, he's going to get rid of that. What's he standing in front of? I'm the new king. That's who that is. Horus Heracarte. Horus, the two horizons. That's who that is, the Sphinx. I'm the new king. He's standing on top of him. I rise on top of your civilization while you fall. And I got your face too. So when they say I got your face, I'm equating that to in the media when they show you Charlton Heston as Moses. When they show you he is Ramses and they show you Cleopatra is Elizabeth Taylor. I got your face. That's what they're saying. Not that they literally got it, but they trying they trying so hard to have our face that they are literally injecting lips, injecting hips, injecting boobs. Now they have something called melanotan. Have you heard of that? Melanotan. It's an injection or a pill that you can take, and it makes your skin dramatically darker. It's called melanotan, so they can survive longer in the sun because you know the sun is burning them up right at this point. The whole ozone layer deficiency and all that stuff, they can't stand the higher levels of radiation. That's what melanin is built for, to absorb that. Melanin is the ultimate molecule. It absorbs all forms of energy. All right, and they realize and recognize that. So we thinking that they out there tanning just because. They trying to look like us. The more that they can look like us, the longer they can survive, for one. And the more insightful and all the good things that come with melanin. All right, they got some. Okay, let me go a little bit further because I want to reiterate that this is not about black and white. Because who you think had them? We are the only people on the planet that can have children of any color. Okay? So they came from us. Alright? They just are deficient. Some people might call them mutants or mutated beings or whatever. But regardless, they're our children. Alright? So, there is a certain amount of responsibility that as we go further, we was responsible for that. So there is a whole bit of karma that's involved in this too. All right, and somebody brought this to my attention earlier. I must say that Dr. Weatherspoon up there at the water place, she reminded me of that. All right, so there is a certain amount of this that we are actually, the whole slavery thing, or how about when you was in school or when you was in church and you learned that what goes around comes around? Absolutely. Well, what went around came around. Okay, I'm sorry, but we did have something to do with our condition, and we still do now. The point is now we back on the rise. All right, it's our turn again, because the next thing you learned was in Bible school at least was the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. All right, that's the same cyclical teaching. What goes up must come down, and then come back around. So we got to spend this time re-educating ourselves, remembering who we are, and then take this information and go back to where we're supposed to be. We're divine beings on the inside with so much more power than we realize. This cool glass of water on the table, she pick it up. gotcha, bitch. You stole my water.
Oh, wow.
Went there and raped her. You stole my water.
That's how the story goes.
That's how the story goes. All right. From that union came Menelik, which means how handsome he is. That's what his name means. All right. Let me touch on Solomon real quick.
What was that?
Solomon. Let's just break that down real quick. Solomon. Okay. Let's cut this down. Soul of man. A woman is the only person that can bring the soul of a man into this world. A woman, okay? She is the only one who can build the Temple of Solomon without using a hammer and without using a saw.
That's what's up.
That's Solomon, the soul of man. In 9 months, which in 9 months you're complete. In 9 months you have the soul of man. You had that baby. All right. Alexander the Great, on his terrible rip across the country, defeating everyone. All right. He defeated all of this area across the world. Okay. Then he says, all right, I'm going down to get them black people. He goes down into Egypt. He beats them. He gets down into Egypt and he beats them. All right. But time goes on, and he like, okay. His generals is like, well, you done conquered this much of the world. Let's keep going. Let's go down there to Ethiopia. All right. So he goes on down there, and he met this queen named Candace. All right. Candace was a well-known general and military strategist in Africa. So well-known, in fact, that Alexander was like, I don't think I want to go down there. So he stopped his army at the border and turned back around. Let's go back home, folks. Because you know what? I've been undefeated so far. Right. It would be a shame to get whipped by a nigger. And not only that, a nigger woman. Now she's the queen. What he didn't understand, he thought her name was Candace. That was not her name, that was her title. Candace was what they called the queens of Ethiopia. All right. So there was many Candaces, or the original term is Kandake. All right. But there were many of them. That's why I got this picture up here with 3 sisters in all different hues, shapes, and sizes. All of you all are queens. So all of you all are Kandake. And most of us in here know that when we go too far, there's hell to pay. You don't want it. You get to a certain point, and just like Alexander the Great, you stop. Okay? All right. So history does repeat itself. The Olmec. Let's talk about them for a minute. Come on. These big old stone statues down in Mexico. Let me show you the area. Right down in here. Between the United States and what they call South America. All of this is America. But right in here is with the Olmec civilization. It's older than the Maya. It's older than the Inca. It's older than the Aztecs. Matter of fact, they call this the mother of the Aztecs, the Maya, and the Inca. All right. Now, when you look at these people up in history books, they will tell you, go back one. They'll tell you that because they worship the jaguar god, that these are jaguar-like features. Okay. All right. And they will say that because they didn't have high technology that we had, matter of fact, they didn't even have the wheel. All right. So they couldn't carve the fine features of the white man. Are you serious? That's what it says in history books. I got some. Right. Well, look at these fine features around the eyes, and the fine features around the helmet, and the fine. Look at this lip. If that's not a brother's lip, I don't know what it is. Okay. But they will tell you that this, or they'll say either they didn't have the precise tools, or that this is a representation of a jaguar god. Right. Okay. No, these are our people. And we was here before Columbus, before the Indians, all of that. All those step pyramids. The Mayan calendar came from the Olmec calendar. Okay? That's where they got it from. They didn't just make it up by themselves, because there's people all over the world And like I said, some of them had mutated and changed it. Well, we came and we helped a lot of them out. We showed them what was going on. So yeah, there's a lot of mixture. You have the Asiatic types, and there's types that look just like us. Some are darker than us. If you go over to India, it's some Indian people that are jet black and have that long white silky hair. All right, but that's us.
Yes.
The Olmec is us.
Hey, brother, can I offer assistance with you too?
Yeah, yes, please.
The term Mexican is an offshoot of, when you go earlier, you say Olmec.
Yeah.
Or Olmec.
Oh, yes.
Then they came with Mexican later. Much
Yeah.
later. Then again, my ancestor Ivan Van Sertima told us that on the top of the head, they alleged they're helmets, but when he went down there, he said it's either braids or locks.
Oh yeah, in the back. You know what? I do have some pictures at home, but I didn't bring one. In the back, under the helmet, and around. That's why they always show you the front picture. Right. But in the back, it's like cornrows and braids. All the time. Yeah, that's true. Come on. That's the truth. This is how we show up in comic books. That's an Olmec head. The Sentinels, the enemy of the X-Men. Right. All right, and they tear their heads off. Once again, they just showing you the head. They tear their heads off and beat them up. But what that look like?
Right.
That's the Olmec. The conquest of Carthage. Hannibal, one of the, as a matter of fact, arguably the greatest general of history. Okay, he was around 247 BC. To this day, when people go to military school, they study his tactics. All right, because he went on a rampage through the Roman Empire that will never be forgotten. They could not stop him or destroy him. All right. In the end, his downfall was like a lot of brothers, his own people. They wouldn't support him like he should, and he's out there all alone, fighting for the honor of Carthage and the Africans. And he just went out there too long. They still didn't catch him. He got away clean. Matter of fact, when they finally caught up to him, so the story goes, he says, "Well, you know what? You'll never take me alive," and killed himself.
See? If you don't die for something, you'll
never take me alive. So they never got Hannibal. All right. He was also one. We see flashes of Hannibal when we see movies like The Lord of the Rings or 300.
Yeah.
Where they sitting on those big old elephants, those big battle elephants.
Yeah.
All right. That was his. He came up with that. To go stomping through the armies. The Romans had never seen anything like that. They couldn't stop those big old elephants. All right, but that's how we show up in modern times. They actually had a show on the History Channel about Hannibal.
They always put white people.
No, but they made Hannibal mix. They made
Hannibal was
at least made him a brother.
Well, you know,
they made a light-skinned brother.
He was a light-skinned brother, but more than that, you know, when you talk about a general. And you talk about a general of his bearing, they didn't have him speak one sentence. Every time they showed him, he was growling, or he was stabbing someone in the back. Now, a general of his caliber would never stab a man in the back. Right. All right. Now, these are the subtle things that they'll go ahead and show you the history, because at this point, it's irrefutable. Right. They can't deny it anymore, but when they show it, they still taint it. To make him seem barbaric and monstrous, and like they got him stabbing people in the back.
That's history town.
They're still mad, brothers.
They study his tactics as the pinnacle of great military strategy and how to act as a military person. So all of that honor of the Marines, all that Green Beret stuff, all of that stuff came from him. Right. All that Bushido and Way of the Warrior, that's African. Right? We didn't stab nobody in the back.
That's right. No.
All right. Well, on the History Channel, that's what they show.
I know.
I was going to say, it's funny that they really didn't start showing much on Hannibal until after they put out that movie, Hannibal Lecter. Because if you ask the average person what's the first thing coming out when you think Hannibal, it's going to be some Caucasian eating people. Yeah. It's not going to be a great general.
That's true. True that. Moving on. Africans in Greece. All right. 1900 BC to 4 BC. All right. Now, I explained to you earlier about the universities that all of the great philosophers of Greek history, supposedly the fathers of our modern civilization.
Right.
So I'm talking about Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, Pythagoras. All right. All these people supposedly gave us our philosophy, our mathematics, our astrology. All right. All of our sciences, our medical science, and that's not the case.
No,
every single one of them went to Egypt first. All right. They went through the mystery school. Somebody mentioned that earlier, the Egyptian mystery school. All right. So, Greek plagiarism.
Yeah.
Plagiarism is when you claim to have done something that should be accredited to somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, a lot of them did give credit. A lot of them did, but their counterparts did not. They're the ones who said, "Well, no, they're the father of it."
Yes.
But if you go back and read some of the history, Aristotle said, "Well, no, I went to Egypt. I went to school over there."
Right.
They won't tell you how deep it is,
Right.
and the reason behind that, we've had thousands of years of prophecy. And just the simple fact that our vibration was going lower, I explained that earlier.
Right.
So we knew that we was going down, all right? But that our knowledge and our information needed to be held. It needed to be somewhere. It needed to be kept in trust. So at some point, the Egyptian priest and the African, they said, well, because before then, white people could not get in.
Right.
You couldn't have none of this knowledge. At some point, they started letting them in. All right? They start letting them in because I need you to hold that for me, man. I got something's about to happen to me. Look, just quite frankly, something's about to happen to me. I need you to hold on to something for me. All right, so all of that, the knowledge that we have that got held over in Europe, I'm talking about science, astrology, math, all right, all the higher sciences, and then even going further over here, Asia. So we talking about kung fu, samurai, you know, right? So we talking about two different ways of raising your consciousness. One is through education and the liberal arts. Another is through the martial arts. Both paths you can raise your consciousness. All right. So all that kung fu stuff, that Bruce Lee stuff, that's us. All right. All that stuff in the universities, the math, the science, that's us. But what we did, our genius was such to the point that we said we need to start spreading this stuff all over the world, so that when we wake up, we can find it. It'll be all around us. That's why y'all all remember it. In the 80s, kung fu movies blew up. It was everywhere. Everybody was watching. It was kung fu theater. What was it, kung fu theater? All right. That was a phenomenon. All right. We was getting that information back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they shut that down.
They shut it down. All this stuff comes in cycles. This information, what I'm trying to show y'all is how this stuff has been actually coming to us, and we haven't recognized it.
That's right.
This is our stuff. This right here, that's Hercules. That's a real depiction of Hercules. Originally, the Greek was black. They came from the Etruscans, the Phoenicians, and the Carthaginians, black people. Hercules is another form of Horus. All right, he's the updated energy. Okay, so instead of Horus as the sun god taking 12 steps across the sky, Hercules as the god of the earth, he's a demigod of the Greeks. He has 12 labors that he has to go through in order to redeem himself. All right, so it's the same thing. It's just a different spin to it. Let me share something else with you that you need to get into and get your kids into. Mythology. Mythology is another genius way of storytelling that actually tells our story. And it don't matter what kind of mythology. Greek, Moorish, Mexican, Chinese, it's all our stuff. And if you notice, they all have similar themes. This is where fairy tales come from, mythology. You need to go back to the original mythology and you'll start to understand a lot more about religion.
Because really it's not myth.
It's not. Well, myth is a certain amount of it is myth or a way of telling a story, and a certain amount of it is universal law and universal truth. All right, that's where you have great storytellers like Anansi. All right, who would tell he would tell these outlandish stories, but there was always a moral to the story. Okay? So mythology is a way of encoding our information, and it's encoded on purpose. The reason I will tell you a mythology or a story is because you can get the story. A kid can understand the story, right? And you can memorize the story. All right, if I tell you it has dragons and princesses and there's a knight and he kills the dragon and all that, right? You're going to remember that because it's exciting. But when you get older, I was supposed to say, you know what, remember that story I told you? Well, that dragon is actually inside of you. What you talking about, Daddy? Well, the dragon is actually the Kundalini serpent that's around your chakras. I can't explain that to you as a kid. But as you get older and you start to understand more spiritual concepts, and then I start breaking down mathematics and things to you, then I can take the mythology and explain it to you how it works spiritually. That's the genius of mythology. Our people created mythology. All right? And we propagated it around the world because it doesn't matter where you go. They have a myth or a legend. There's usually a king, a queen, a princess, and a dragon in some way, shape, or form. All right? All of those are attributes of ourselves. The hero. There's always a hero in every story. The hero is Horus.
Come on, teach.
You're the hero. The black man, the black woman is the hero. It used to be the hero was fighting for his woman. He was fighting to get the princess. All right? It used to be that we was fighting for our women. All right? Until they became bitches and hoes and disposable. And after you, it'll be another one. All right? That's when we start, our kids and us, we start making with our words. All right? But the original word was mythology. You go save your woman.
That's right.
Wherever she is. In the maws of a dragon, in a temple, in a tower, in the no sea is deep enough, no mountains high enough. All right? That was the mythology. That was the word. You go get your woman.
Right.
And live happily ever after.
Well, wars was always about a woman.
Usually. Okay. That's Hercules again. Now, they'll say that, you know, Hercules he's really white, he's Greek, you know, and they just painted these guys white to show the difference.
Right. Distinction.
Come on now. It's a black man fighting two white guys.
Right, come on.
They're trying to tell you not to believe your own eyes.
Come on.
Golden Age of the Moor. All right. The Moorish Empire. Now this is when time has gone on. We're talking about thousands of years at this point. We get to about 700 AD. All right. And the Moors come in this area right here. Algeria, Libya, Egyptian area. All right. They move up into the Mediterranean Sea, Italy, France, all of this, Spain. They take over. All right? And they introduce some things. So all that good stuff I've been telling you about. Architecture. Street lamps. They had street lamps in 700 AD.
Well, Edison did the light.
No, he did. Paved streets. They had never seen a paved street. Moors. That's where the Moorish are where masons come from. The original stone masons, the ones who were the builders, they were Moors. Paved streets, indoor plumbing with hot and cold running water. All right, now after this time, let's fast forward a little bit to after the Moors. They have something in Europe called a Dark Age. All right. 1492 defeated the Dark Age. It wasn't dark because we were there. It was dark because we weren't there. All right? And when they kicked us out, they kicked out all of us in our devil education, our devil architecture, and our devil cleanliness. What you mean by our devil cleanliness? They almost killed themselves because they were so dirty and filthy. The bubonic plague almost wiped them out twice.
That only affected them.
Because they were dirty. They were filthy. They said, wash every day. Are you crazy? Well, for one is, okay, you know what? We're going to wipe out all of that Negro influence. And I want you to learn this new Catholic church stuff. So I got to dumb you down. We got to throw away all these books. We got to put out all that information that they put. Cleanly ain't next to godliness. That's the devil. All right? So you don't need to be clean.
can I touch on something real quick?
Yeah.
It's so relevant. I hope everybody just do the research for themselves. As it says, 1492, when Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand united and got the Moors up out of there. Granada was the last Moorish stronghold in Spain, which ended the rule, Moorish rule. A lot of people don't know, do the research. Thanksgiving is celebrated in Europe as well. And it's actually the anniversary when they kicked the Moors up out of Spain. Just do the research.
No, that's true.
People don't know that it's celebrated.
That's real talk. They were among the Turkish people. They were talking about among the Turkish people. So Turkey Day.
Yeah.
Right.
We killed them turkeys.
Turkeys.
Okay. That's what they're talking about.
Thank you.
Turks are Moors. It's Turkey Day. That's why we eat turkey on Thanksgiving.
Well, I want to add to what you just mentioned. Within the last few years, I know you all might remember this. About 10 years ago, around that time, over in Bosnia, they were being rained down upon with bullets because the Bosnians was down in the valley and the Serbs and the others was up in the top shooting down, and the Western world had their cameras interviewing the Serbs as they was blasting in the valley. Now watching this, they were battling, right? You could see down in the bottom, the Bosnians were running out into the middle of the street. They was getting picked off, but they were running out in the street. And I noticed the reason they were running out in the street was, and I'm gonna finish them quick. They had clothes hanging out on the line, drying. And when they told the Serb that he was wrong for all he was doing to them over there, he told them that you all can't tell me anything because these people are holding on to some foreign religions and everybody else over here is Christian. So that's a part of what you were saying. The Bosnians were still holding on to a little bit of Islamism that you took to them during that period. The Bosnians are still Muslims, so to speak. But they were still holding on where the rest of Europe had flipped and went Catholic or Christian and whatnot. So this was just a couple of years ago when that Bosnian war was going on.
Yeah.
Okay. They taught them to be clean, and they were still trying to do that.
Oh, okay. I see. I see what you're talking about, brother. All right, so 1492. That was it for us around this time. Because after this, that's pretty much when the slave trade got into full swing.
Yeah.
Okay.
1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue or something like that.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, brother.
I didn't want to cut into that, but I wanted to bring up one more point on that. The reason King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella married for their military forces to join was because the Moors were on their way into France. And if they would have got France, they probably would have been able to conquer all of Europe.
Oh, yeah.
That's real talk.
Also, 1492, the defeat of the Moors is actually when they discovered, hey, let's go over to America. There's something over there. All right, previous to that, they thought the world was flat. Right? Well, when they defeated the Moors, they got a hold of their maps and their books, and they discovered that not only was there something over there, but that the world was round. And not only was the world round, but it's riches over there. Because the Moors had been trading with people over in America for thousands of years.
Absolutely.
All right? And so Christopher Columbus was like, let's go. All right? The Spanish Inquisition, they took a lot of the books and the information from the people of the land and burned them. All right, so only a select few, they were mentioning earlier, only a select few, like people in the Vatican, where they have that Vatican library, a lot of those books were from the Spanish Inquisition.
Really?
All right, where if you did not convert to, first they kind of explained it to us like, well, it was about converting you to Catholicism. Right, and if you didn't convert, even if it was just that, if you did not convert, they would kill you.
Absolutely.
They would torture you first, and they came up with some of the most brutal, inhumane tortures you have ever heard in your life. All right, but that's what they did. The destruction of the culture and the Africans' contribution. So that's kind of how we got left dumbfounded from where we are, because once the Moors were defeated, that was kind of the last stronghold of Africa. And the European was able to then become stronger, and then with the riches added on to them that they got from America, and then the global trade that they were able to engage in now because they have more accurate maps. And they know where all these trading posts was and all the sources of riches that we were using. all right, then they were able to take over. And the idea was, let's use what they used against us. All right, so let me share this with you that you may not be so familiar with about the Moors, and you may not like. But the Moors very widely engaged in polygamy. Polygamy is an African tradition. Okay, so just like now,
You said no one's.
just like now, some of our rich and famous brothers, they have a predilection for the white lady, especially blonde. So too did the Moor, and they didn't just have one; they had harems full of them. All right, and so they began making a lot more and more mulatto type children, and their children made more mulatto. So that is what started to water down our bloodline, and then allowed them to propagate with each other to make more and conquer us. That's why in slavery times in America, they were so psychotic about the black man not sleeping with the white woman. And they even go so far as to cut their penis off, because that's how we got you the first time, Negro. You were sleeping with our women. We're not going to let you do that to us. So they were literally psychotic about it. You could be killed just for looking at a white woman. The reason why is because we like them white women. For some reason, the brothers in power start liking the white ladies. So, but that's what contributed a lot to their downfall.
Still does.
And still does.
Still does. And see Shakespeare poem Othello. That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all. That's really. He was telling our story. That's our story. He's telling the story of our downfall. All right. Now, Indians. They said Christopher Columbus thought he was going over to India.
He fell asleep.
Right? I'm going over to India. That's the way the story goes. He was looking for spices and herbs, right? He gets to America and says, India. And all of you are Indians. I'm like, Indians? First of all, how you discover something, there's people running around. Like, what's up, dog? He like, I have discovered you. Well, he did discover it for Europeans. Because they didn't know it was there. So, okay, he did discover it, but for them. They don't qualify it. They don't tell you the whole statement. All right? But really, the people that was over here was Olmec people. The Folsom people who you won't hear about were one of the first civilizations over here. Right along with the Clovis Indians. All right, you'll hear a little bit more about the Clovis Indians than you will about the Folsom Indians. The only thing you know about Folsom right now is it's a prison. But those were the indigenous people of America, which back then may have been called a Maxima, I'm pretty sure. All right?
Come on.
So these was black Native Americans. So it was some red people over here too. All right, but now they show you them to the exclusion of us. All right, but I tell you what, if you just go back 100 years in the Webster's Dictionary and you look up Moor and Indian, and they'll tell you blacks, red man, there was black Indians, red Indians, they'll tell you all the different shades. This is just 100 years ago. You look at the same dictionary today, and it's completely different. They don't tell you anymore. They took that out.
That's why I like old books.
You got to like old books, because that's before they changed the stuff. The older the better. The older the better. Alright? Native American tribes, Nanticoke, Seminole, Folsom, Olmec, Lenape. There's many, many more. I don't have room to list them all here. There's dozens and dozens. But these are verified brothers right here. All of these.
And all that I knew about Christopher Columbus, I read the other day that he really fell asleep and a brother led the ship on in to America. He didn't even discover it because he was sleeping drunk.
He never even stepped foot on American soil.
Exactly.
Christopher Columbus never stepped foot on American soil.
Tell him. At all?
At all. Never.
No.
Never. But see, he was the boss.
Yeah.
He was the captain. All right, so he gets the credit.
Right.
Yeah.
But he never came to America. He never got here.
And there's some more documented evidence to prove that we were here before Columbus. The European settlers, Lewis and Clark, when they went on their expedition.
That's right now.
That's right.
We think we just this physical stuff. They tell you in Star Wars, this is just a covering. This ain't nothing. This is the skin.
They tell you it is more than meets the eye.
More than meets the eye.
I have a question, Bob.
Yes, sir.
What you think about that wedding over there? They facing Michelle and Obama. They're not inviting them and whatnot.
Oh,
What's up on that, man?
You know what, brother?
What's really up on them, though?
Honestly, well, for one thing,
that's really deep, man.
It is.
That's
for
real
one
deep.
thing,
That's what I'm working on right now.
I feel you. For one thing,
You know what I'm saying?
right now I really don't have a political agenda about the politics.
But I'm
But I
involved
will.
in that, really.
But I will say that what they said was because the two children, they're not actually king and queen.
True.
It's just prince and princess.
There you go.
So they're saying that they're not inviting all the heads of state, just other royalty.
Right.
So that supposedly the president of France didn't get invited either.
Exactly.
Or these different presidents they're saying are just heads of state. When you get into the information about who really owns the government and all that, you will understand that when they say a head of state, he's pretty much like a glorified governor.
So basically, they're more like an enemy than being a marriage.
An enemy?
That's what it feels like to me.
Well,
you're not inviting people.
They are the enemy,
man,
but
I mean,
that's
president,
you know.
And the first lady, man, you overlooking that like.
I can't
we get a
to
real
that.
president.
But you know what? You can't.
They like pooped it out.
You can't expect justice
That's
from
crazy.
people that you can't expect nothing from them.
That's really crazy.
It is. You can't expect nothing from them.
That's really crazy.
Let's get back on track. Let's move forward. Now we're going the second round is going to say why he was fighting so hard against the
This planet will be dark forever.
The planet will be dark forever. He's fighting for dark. So remember that next time you watch a movie and they say something about the forces of darkness are on the move again, or we have to fight the forces of darkness. What they're probably referring to is you,
right,
as the forces of darkness.
Right.
Okay, that's usually who they're, and they usually say that in science fiction movies or fantasy or something like that. All right, so when did the slave trade begin? Slave trade began around 1400. Slaves were traded in and around Africa. That's a good question, Stan. I'm talking about the so-called black slave trade. Yes. And it began formally in the U.S. in 1664. All right. So what we're really talking about is about 600 years of formalized slavery. All right. Was there slavery before 1400? We already established that yes, there was. Unfortunately, the answer is yes. Slavery has been around for a long time and in various forms. Interestingly, I already told you this, the word slave comes from the term Slav, which is Slavic, or people of Polish or Germanic descent. Indo-European people who at one time had been the predominant slaves. All right. Timelines. I'm speaking about the time of slavery in timelines, BC to AD, for a reason. All right. So, just before I move on, what does BC mean? Before Christ or what? What else? Before the Common Era. What does CE mean? What does CE mean? Common Era. It means the Common Era. All right. Common Era is what they refer to times as now, or the modern age. Common Era. All right. BC is, or BCE is before Common Era. Now, you were right if you said before Christ. That's true, because this is like the secular way of saying before Christ. Or they'll say before Christ's exaltation. Okay, that's the secular way of saying that same thing. So AD means after death, or Anno Domini, which is the year of our Lord. Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. All right. So all of these terms for historical time, BCE, before the Common Era. All right. So I just showed you we had around 600 years of slavery over here in the West. All right? Egyptian history, if you just go by the accepted Egyptian history that a lot of European anthropologists will say goes back to around 3600 BC or BCE. All right? Now, there's many scholars who know, and for a fact, is much older than that. But let's just go with the accepted timeline, around 3600 BC. All right? Up until the time of 1400 when slavery got started. Which amount of time was longer? The time when we was in charge and in rule on this earth at that time? Or the time of Western slavery? Western slavery lasted about this long on that timeline. Okay? Now, I break this down. This is really more, I break that down more for the younger people who really don't understand this timeline stuff. Because the timelines get really messed around. All right? They purposefully have started and restarted time. All right? Nobody counts their history down. How do you go from 3600 BC to 0? Nobody counts their civilization down. All right? That's a Western concept. Our civilization was tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years old. We wasn't counting down. Okay? They counted us down. They counted down like pretty much how far back we can chart you till we defeated you and then we took over. Right. That's how they did the timeline. So you got a Gregorian timeline. Right. You got a Julian timeline. We have a world timeline. We have dozens of timelines. There's people all over the world that still haven't accepted our timeline. They still going by their indigenous people that had not become enslaved. That's right. They still going by their timeline. The Mayans, because I got asked this question about the Mayan calendar, what they did to equate that to our timeline was they found a point where they kind of coincided, where the two calendars met up, and then they went forward from there. All right, so it's really not that hard because the Mayan calendar has been counting continuously for thousands of years. Right. They just figured out where the two corresponded at. And then they projected further and they said, well, based on their calendar, if we count it in our years, then we'll get to that 2012 December 21st solstice thing. Okay. Now, I know you all might be real excited about that part of the lecture, but I really don't have much to say about 2012 other than you need to get yourself ready. That's right. You need to work on transforming yourself and working on you and yours. Other than that, I'm not going to tell you the world is going to blow up. I'm not going to tell you to start buying a bunch of guns and stocking up on water and all this craziness. That stuff is on the outside, and it's not going to save you. If the world blows up, what good is water and guns? Right. Okay? We got to work this out, and we got to help as many other people as we can to work this out too. All right. So, I asked the question, what were people of African descent doing before the time of slavery? The answer is everything. That's right. We were doing everything. All right. So, some accomplishments of Pan-African civilization. I say Pan-African civilization because that means around the world. Right. When I'm talking about Pan-African, I'm talking about all over this world. Alright? So, Africa, this area here is known as the cradle of life. Alright? It's where modern humans were first discovered. That's where the 7 liberal arts come from: agriculture, astronomy, astrology, science, writing, mathematics, art, music, textiles, architecture, theology, royalty, and government. Or what you would call modern civilization. Alright? It started here in Blackest Africa, is what some scholars call it. Okay? This is Africa. Alright? Even including this area, this little area over here that they got named Saudi Arabia and Iran, that's still part of Africa. Alright? That's called the North. In archaeological terms, that would be the northeast extension of Africa because it's just separated by that little indentation of a sea. All right, that's still Africa.
Absolutely.
They have told us it's the Middle East.
Right.
All right, and that's to help throw us off from when they're talking about things in the Bible and the Quran and in these other places, so that we don't have an understanding that all of that stuff was going on in Africa.
Right.
Not in the Middle East. There's no such thing as the Middle East. That's a modern day concept. All right. All right, so we got the pyramids of Egypt, ancient Egypt. The original hero, Heru, is from Egypt. All right, and that's where, incidentally, our concept of superheroes comes from.
Right.
You can see I really geared this towards kids. All right, but for real, I mean, that's good information to know.
You
that,
have to keep saying that it's people here that don't know. You're doing all right.
Okay. All right. Well,
everybody got time to learn.
okay. All right. Well, the Neteru of Egypt, we would call them modern day angels.
Right.
All right, or super beings.
Right.
All right, those were the superheroes.
Exactly.
They was flying around. Heru's job was to avenge his father. All right, he was the ultimate warrior. Then you have Sekhmet, the avenger of Ra. All right, you have Bast. These people not only were superheroes, they were original dual identity. They had secret identities. In my day job, I'm the goddess queen of heaven. And then when it's time to come down and wreck some stuff, I'm Sekhmet, the avenger, the lion goddess. All right? As Hathor, queen of heaven, she's the cow goddess and the mother and giving and kind. But you cross her the wrong way, and it's hell to pay. All right? That's where we get some of these modern day terms from. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. The Egyptians told you that when they set Sekhmet loose. All right? The only way that they could stop her and her power was to get her drunk. All right? Brothers still use that tactic to this day. Okay? So, the Neteru, outside of being heroes and superheroes of their time, are also how they identified the various aspects of nature. It's how they also identify the various aspects of the microcosm or the inner world. So talking about atoms, talking about the molecules, talking about the workings of your body. That's how they explained it.
Right.
All right. Now, when we read it, well, they say, well, these ignorant people didn't have any concept of, modern medicine and modern sciences and things like that. When actually, the more time goes on, the more they find out those old Egyptian and African concepts was more on point than their most brilliant science.
Right.
Their most brilliant scientists. They're just not figuring out. See, we're so slow over here that we just not figuring out that the stuff they was talking about thousands of years ago was actually a lot more accurate than what they thought. All right, we was first with it in so many ways, and they still ain't even figured out how. All right, the architecture, I told you, they still haven't figured out how. All the complex mathematics, I was reading some information online about the Egyptians, and they said, well, they didn't have any mathematics that were any more complicated than basic algebra. All right, now, that's such an impossibility for you to build a monument to such precision that it lines up with stars. It lines up to the precise north pole of the earth. All right, you don't get that with just basic algebra. They have such an understanding that they understood what we call pi, a symbol called pi, which is supposed to be representative of the perfect circle, the perfect spiral, the perfect ratio. They knew about that back then. Okay? But they'll tell us that they didn't. That the Greek man, he came up with the modern understanding of mathematics, Pythagoras and Plato and the Pythagorean theorem and all that. Well, guess where Pythagoras went to school at?
Egyptian mystery school.
He went to Egypt. All right? Most of the Greek philosophers and Greek teachers, they went to Egypt. So when they were standing up and saying where they went to school, you know how over here, somebody that's real smart and well-to-do would say, I went to Harvard. Or I went to Yale. All right, well, Pythagoras is like, I went to Egypt. All right, because that was the premier place to go get your knowledge from. You weren't going to get any better learning than over in Africa. All right? So, That's Horus. That's Set or Seth, his enemy.